Our next speaker is Tamara Blagojevic from the IAUS CPS and Space Court Foundation.
Okay. Hello, everyone. As you know, I'm from the Space Court Foundation and also more recently, a new member of IAUS CPS, trying to help out and really happy to be a part of the effort. Today, we will talk about particular examples of national dark and quiet skies frameworks. No. Yeah, okay. So this is a particular number of states. There's more, of course, but these I taught to present. You will see for which reasons later on. We were kind of randomly handpicking, but considering also who knows which languages, who comes from where, so who has a feeling or a sense for certain countries they travel to. I'm from Balkans, so I picked some states from there, and also I picked some states where I travel to. And I wanted to show a variety of states, so there's different regions. As you can see, we touch upon even a little bit of African continent. I'm not going to address the questions. You heard many times about them. I'm just going to say, is light pollution the environmental pollution, and astronomical activities, are they kind of a form of space activities? Are they generally protected under the frameworks? And we're going to see that. And is outer space an environment legally, right? Because to us, it sounds like it is, but we'll see. Of course, if we don't find anything, if a certain state is less developed when it comes to a space law framework or an environmental law framework, or it has a different technique of defining and norming, we look at initiatives. Because what initiatives tell us, they tell us where law is going, what are the trends, what are the ways forward, and of course, those initiatives indicate also legal opinion, or opinion juris, what we call, and we can see that in official statements, in white papers, in UN COPUS sessions. We can see it in many different ways, even when you see that a country has any dark sky areas that are designated or they want to designate it in the future, astronomical facilities such as telescopes or observatories. Of course, these are also some indicators that can tell us of some similarities or differences between the country's normative techniques. Now, Jana has been talking about this more, so I'm not going to get deeply into it. I'm just going to say, before there is hard law, there is usually soft law, so it's indicative towards how hard law is going to look, probably, or change and be revised in the future. There are mixed approaches. In some states, you're going to see soft law, you're going to see more initiatives. In some states, you're going to see more focus on astronomical activities. In some, and of course, the space to Earth aspect. In some, it's going to be the opposite, the environmental aspect. So space law aspect, this is what I talked about. You can you'll be able to read it later, but I'm just going to say what's really important for us is to notice, well, pretty much to have this comprehensive, holistic approach, because space is a multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary field. We have to consider different areas of environmental law, and of course we have to consider what one country has implemented, signed, and of course did it bring any national space laws and how it defined, for example, space activities, did it subsume astronomical activities underneath it. Such provisions can have open clauses, they can have enumerative, but like exemplary space activities when they're exemplary, and a country has like some space policies and strategies and a lot of research and development R&D projects and has a lot of astronomical facilities. All of that should be regulated, right? So that indicates and implies a certain type of interpretation that allows us to conclude that astronomical activities or astronomy is protected. Now, environmental law, certainly usually more developed in many of the states, had more time, and we researched the Earth's environment more so. We can see general environmental law, which can have special provisions. We have special lightning law, which is still rare, but Jana did enumerate a few, and I'm going to say Slovenia, Slovakia, even Vietnam, and China. So natural, not special lightning law, but general with provisions. Natural heritage protection, sometimes there are special norms on protecting certain areas and designating dark skies. Also biodiversity protection, special norms if they're endangered species such as bats or turtles, and energy and electricity rules. We're not really happy about those because mainly in some countries that are less developed, they kind of have mostly energy efficiency, still focus on LED, which I had a pleasure to learn from Jana. And of course, but they can also include lightning standards, and they can include lightning mitigation or restrictions. So Europe. Okay, Slovenia, it has a special decree. So that's a special law. So now it's sufficient to have an open clause because it has a special law on limit values, on light pollution. It also, you can read, and it's going to have an update soon. We will, of course, follow all states' efforts still. National Space Activities Act, it also has that, and it's a recent act. So we still need to see its implementation in application. It does include licensing and registration. So when we get to the step 2 of our research, as Jana said, we will definitely consider what's it like in Slovenia. Does not explicitly now in wording include astronomical activities yet, but Slovenia is also active in a lot of initiatives, research project. It has its own space agency, so we're going to follow the efforts and see how this is implemented in practice, and some soft law might emerge. It has technical guidelines. Most of the states actually have initiatives, whether they're guideline standards. In Europe, there are European standards on lightning. I think the states that I'm showcasing here have the updated 2014-15 version of such standards, and there are these projects. Now, Slovakia. It has a variety of provisions in different laws. That's also a technique, like Act on the Protection, Promotion, Development of Public Health. So it's considering light pollution in an anthropocentric way. But then we have road traffic, dazzling and distracting. We have a Building Act, advertising, building permits, view, and civil code nuisance. Again, well, mainly anthropocentric, but initiatives. It co-sponsored the recommendations to keep dark and quiet skies for science and society, to keep them safe and protected, which indicates the opinion of this state that it wants to continue the efforts to work and develop its laws and support the efforts. It also has doesn't have yet, maybe if I missed it in the last month or so, or while on the conference, but it's in preparation, the Act on the Regulation of Outer Space Activities, so it might include astronomical, it might have an open clause that can allow us to conclude that it's going to be included. It has a lot of research and development projects as well. It's active now in space, started being active. Dark sky parks indicate protected natural reserves, biodiversity protection, observatories. Did I skip one? No, okay. Poland. Poland has a lot of initiatives. It has an active community. So most of stuff is done in the initiative. It has the standards that I mentioned that also Bulgaria has. I didn't showcase Bulgaria because it's similar in between and has a bit less than Poland has. Environmental Protection Act. This is an example where it can allow for subsuming light pollution due to the definition of emissions. As Jana mentioned, light is energy. Light can be considered as energy. Also, if you see heat, noise, vibration, electromagnetic fields, it includes energy. There is no reason to exclude light, especially if it has regulation on the technical conditions for building and their location, and they mention lighting devices advertised not to cause nuisance. So basic calculations, we just kind of take these two into account, no reason to exclude, and it has lighting standards. They need to be based on something, unless, so initiatives, okay. So let's go to Asia. China is interesting. It also, similarly to Slovakia, has in different laws, but China is big, it's developed as also an industrial and a bit polluted. So civil law, proper lighting, again, that's kind of neighbor nuisance, neighbor behavior, also like a kind of due diligence standard towards your neighbor. Property law prohibits hazardous optical and electromagnetic radiation. So we have optical here. Environmental protection, light radiation is environmental pollution. We're always happy to see this definitions if it's included. Shanghai Environmental Protection Regulation, light sources do not directly illuminate homes or distract drivers. So Shanghai had one of the first specific, and then lighting ordinances in different cities. I'm going to try pronouncing, I'm sorry in advance, Guangzhou, Beijing, Tianjin, and Shenzhen. And then we have dark sky reserves, parks, and are going to be established or have been established in these cities. It has observatories. India, okay. India has some characteristics due to like geographical, environmental conditions, development as well maybe, certain to China, certain to Vietnam. The air is really polluted and stuff like that. There's a lot of initiatives, emerging initiatives on people actually complaining about light pollution, but in its main environmental law, it's not explicitly included. So we're looking at special law, wildlife. No activities permitted in or around turtle nesting. Bombay Police Act does not include it specifically, but any public nuisance light is a nuisance since it's not like explicitly excluded, and that's how people approach it and has been approached. Sometimes in practice are punishable as torts. National Lightning Code from 2010. Okay, so if something existed in 1999 and 2010, reason the more if we have later on regulation or when we see how the space sector develops to believe that it's going to continue going forward, especially if it's supported agenda item as a special item on dark and quiet skies, which means it recognizes its importance and creation of the expert group of monitoring the satellite constellations' impact on astronomy. Okay, sorry. And space policy. Okay, India does not have hard law currently. It did have one act from 2017 that still didn't really happen. But the 2023 space policy, activity pertaining to the space sector, and it does not like close the clause. It does enumerate, but exemplary, just in examples, no reason to exclude. Next. Astronomical activities. Vietnam. Okay, Vietnam doesn't have super developed space law. It does like have cyber laws and stuff like that. So it does kind of support scientific activities, which is a good thing because it indicates where it's going forward when it comes to astronomical activities. This is not here on the slide because I'm going to talk about what it has. And then you can conclude where it's going. Law on protection of the environment from 2005, any element forming the environment. So no reason to exclude light pollution and maybe even space implications. Light standards, limit noise, light, stuff like that, you can just underline it, okay? And Lotus technical manuals, there are 2 new construction and buildings in operation. This also has natural parks, but those natural parks are not recognized. So if you want to go protect something, go to Vietnam. Observatories also, it has them. And Middle East, okay. United Arab Emirates, I really want to talk about because they're super interesting. They're one of those that define space activities, including various types of astronomical activities like Earth observation, monitoring, tracking, scientific space exploration experiments, and participating in astronomical activities. So even participation in them is protected, not just them itself. It has another aspect to it. Space debris, national space debris mitigation guidelines also apply when you take a look. They don't exclude those listed activities. So it's considered again in national space policy. It's considered in the strategy, including scientific. They have a lot of sustainability and also in their statements to UN COPUS. Federal law on environmental protection, you can see glow, it's 1999. And you can see radiation and pollutants. Why? Architecture, sand, you can think about that. So location, geolocation, and environmental conditions. Marine policy considers light pollution. They also protect turtles. Green building, you can see exterior light pollution. Dubai had clean energy strategy with lighting system standards. Abu Dhabi had first public lighting specification manual, which requires kind of impact assessment, light pollution mitigation reporting compliance. Qatar, I'm just going to let you take a look at it, is less developed. I wanted to include it so you can see what is it like when somebody mainly mentions energy efficiency. So that's like a step back. It can be watched and seen as a step forward, having in mind the development of Qatar. But that's, for example, we're now waiting what's going to happen after. We're looking at the development. We're taking into consideration more wider range of initiatives in this particular circumstance when you don't see explicit mention, but there's scope for light pollution. Protect biodiversity, it mentions protection of biodiversity, so we look at special laws. Human health, combat various forms of pollution effects, prevent instant long-term environmental effects of construction, industrial, no. Light can be subsumed under a variety of these. Environmental pollution, any changes in environmental characteristics, any changes. Directly, indirectly injure live creatures, installations, again, any noise, radiation. Light is also energy that can have radiation, heat, lead directly or indirectly. This really lets us subsume it. Executive bylaws, minimum lighting levels. Okay, if these are executive bylaws of this law above, okay, it makes sense, minimum lighting levels, so it's not excluded. Let's go further. They also have environmental quality standards. They have some initiatives, as you can see here. And in the Design and Building Guideline Manual, lightning, light pollution, glare, light trespass, lower level laws and soft law have to be in compliance when they interpret other laws. And I'm just going to mention Egypt is similar to Qatar, but not including light pollution explicitly. It has unified building law, again not including. They focus even more on energy efficiency. Here you can see some initiatives, but the Egyptian Space Agency is becoming more and more active, has a lot of research and development projects. They are supporting sustainable development strategy for 2030 includes science and education, National Authority for Remote Sensing in Space. They focus on Earth observation satellites. They're the operator. You can see what's happening here. And in the Green Pyramid rating system, there's something included as like a visual dimension. And in Egypt, Morocco, and Qatar, you're gonna notice, what you notice probably, those of you who are here in La Palma, you're gonna notice different types of windows that let natural lighting in. So they prioritize natural light. Countries maybe less developed, but it already kind of is going towards the way that we see that it's going to prioritize a certain thing over the other. That's because of the weather, probably, or the environmental conditions, but however. So law concerning environmental protection improvement and improvement. The law concerning, okay. So scope for including light pollution, protection against all forms of pollution and degradation, whichever origin. Okay, so we already see it here. National Energy Efficiency Strategy, public lighting main objectives, energy saving, initiatives. However, UN did say that they have positive progress when it comes to conservation area and network expansion to protect species and habitats. Look at there up. Specially protected areas, biological diversity, all living animal and plant species. So there is scope to include light pollution. Then we look at initiatives and soft law. Okay, so the trends that you notice, if you notice any trends or want to comment on the similarities, differences, I would love to hear it. Pretty much that's it, but I'm going to just show you this fast sheet. When you see a question mark, that means, like, for example, no and question mark, not currently, but is developing, has initiatives, might be, might happen. Yes, question mark, not explicitly regulated, but open clause or initiatives in soft law. It can lead to that or it can be subsumed. So this is more of a yes and no. It's kind of, we're waiting, we're going to see. You can see who has what, because here you see more states that were done. I'm going to use this opportunity to thank also the IAUS CPS and to thank the interns of the Space Code Foundation for helping with research of India space law, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, due to the languages. And a friend helping with that's a translator with the United Arab Emirates, because we wanted to be really, so we sourced other experts from the national states. And yeah, there was a lot of help from the side of Space Court interns and my friend, the translator, when it comes to finding the exact and newest laws to double check that the links are good. You can also see this for astronomical activities. This shortened here means astronomical activities or observation. Are they seen as a form of space activity? You can see more no's here, but then development points out that they might be. Okay, this is it. If any questions, and I'm gonna thank you very much. Really happy to be here.
Thank you for the very in-depth thought. Do we have one very quick question? If not, I would recommend saving your questions for the break. I think we should have plenty of time. It's very in-depth, so I'm sure there'll be more time for discussions during the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.